Some 100 years ago, there were banana republics. Today, there is an entire banana union. A union of some 450 million people run by unelected and corrupt bureaucrats. A union where politicians and elections can be bought, sold, and traded. A union without independent external politics or military. A union run by and following the orders of overseas puppet masters. A union of 27 indentured nations which have been forced into debt from which there is no escape. 27 nations forced into eternal indentured slavery. A union of 27 unequal nations. Some of these nations have all their rights and privileges, while other nations have a distinct second-class status. A union which has institutionalized and perfected genocide of the smaller, newer, second-class member nations by stealing their children under the pretense of child protection. What is the Banana Union? It is a union of 27 indentured nations which have been forced into debt from which there is no escape. 27 nations forced into eternal indentured slavery. These 27 slavishly indentured nations owe unpayable debt to French, German, and international banksters. These so-called loans are in fact huge bribes given to the corrupt politicians of the indentured nations in order to have them sign away the future growth and prosperity of their nations to the banksters. Instead of having invested in this money to improve the economies and the living standards of the nations, they have divided it up among themselves through anonymous mailbox companies doing fictitious work for the government. So, for example, the Greeks are being accused of living above their means, but nobody criticizes the banksters which have enabled and created the situation. Banksters which have given this money to the politicians instead of to the people. The banksters should take a loss on this so-called debt, and the Greek people should not be made to pay it off. The same goes for all the other indentured nations of the Banana Union. Banana Union is a union of 27 unequal nations. Some of these nations have all the rights and privileges, while other nations have a distinct second-class status. For example, only the privileged nations get a generous subsidy for their farm production. With their subsidized food production, they have decimated farms and agricultural jobs in the second-class member nations of Central and Eastern Europe. Despite cheaper food production, the countries of Central and Eastern Europe cannot compete against the more expensive but heavily subsidized farms of France, Holland, or Germany. While previously self-sufficient in food production, today the countries of Central and Eastern Europe import more than 50% of their food. The quality-controlled domestic food production has been replaced by mass-produced foods loaded with dangerous chemicals. Unhealthy food is being imported, and the population eats more expensive food of lesser quality while the unemployment rises. The population of the new member states of the Union are not only forced to pay more for imported food of lesser quality, they are also used as dumping grounds for green meat, rotten vegetables, and spoiled food. You say genocide? Genocide now, in the third millennium, some 70 years after the Nazi atrocities. Is that possible? Yes, exactly. a genocide of the lesser second-class nations of the Central and Eastern Europe. What exactly is genocide? Genocide is a murder of a nation. There are basically two ways one can murder and annihilate a nation. The Nazis have used both of them, both these methods. The first method is by killing off all the individuals of the nation or ethnic group. When thinking of genocide, most people think only of this method and of the concentration camps. Yet there is another, just as effective, but much less obvious and hidden way to commit genocide to eliminate a nation or an ethnic group. For this purpose, the Nazis have created an organization called Lebensborn, which had abducted healthy children in the occupied territories of the Central and Eastern Europe. Some 2 million of such children have been abducted from Czech, Polish, Belarusian, Ukrainian and Russian parents. The children were then given to German families for assimilation and indoctrination. The taking away of children and waiting out for the adults to die off is a less conspicuous but equally criminal method of genocide. This method is being used today by the privileged older member states of the EU upon the second-class newer member states of the Central and Eastern Europe. Tens of thousands of East European children are being abducted every year in the United Kingdom, Norway, Switzerland, and other member or associated countries of the EU.